After waking up from what felt like an eternity of sleep in the soft embrace of my lovely girls, we were watching some gun turrets firing at painted targets. It was, late afternoon after we woke up, and we were looking at things. Fog started to build in the distance, and the air was chilly. It felt homey though, but we had to keep moving to Manehatten to figure out what that hidden army was about, and if we were really about to have another war. Before I left these ponies to their own though, I had to make a few preparations.
Those turrets are badass!
Scattershot had a huff in the air. Looks fine for now. Didn't know what our Griffin friends used to build them, but it seemed safe. I had to make a few parting things as well for this becoming settlement of ours. Ah, this is for communication, I see. The red-coated earth pony quickly took the page from my magical book and stored it in our nesting shack as we followed him along. Then I will need to mark this place on my map, and a good spot to teleport things to, such as the water talisman once I've finished engineering it, like, onto this table perhaps?
You can from anywhere?
A filly was tagging along behind us and popped her question out, and I nodded wildly. Many ponies were inside the bunker, cleaning it out for more stuff. And then one more thing. Back outside, I focused my innermost magic on a small spot in the ground, which was dry soil. Magical swirls from my horn. I felt peaceful, like I was one with nature. A small area the size of a prison cell started to become moist in soft, dark brown dirt. And done.
Just wonder how much you got in that horn of yours.
Compound teased and ruffled my mane with a huff of hers.
Enough to make some fillies happy, I bet.
I blushed brightly and my ears folded back like someone flicked a switch on me. Scattershot winked and I smirked right back at her. This soil is ideal for cultivating and using underground. I managed to finally get a whole sentence out as I got myself collected. I talked to every pony before we decided to leave our settlement behind. Next stop, Manehatten. I turned back, looking at the little home that we helped create as it disappeared on the horizon.
You were right back then when we met, New Leaf. That does feel awesome, helping others and creating something for pony kind.
I smiled proudly, and also being very happy that every pony was on the same page along with me, and it felt like I was having an impact on the wastelands. A few hours down of trotting, the skies became quite dusky and unsettling. Dead trees and dry grass. Probably had to watch out to not get near any radioactive lakes. So I slipped the pipbuck onto one of my hooves, and decided to play some music from the radio, and decided to sing. The wastelands tell you hope won't stay, that harmony's just an old ball of hay. Stop believing in friendship and sweet dreams. A bunch of naysayers, that's what I say. 'Cause loving ponies need no reason, and kindness sure ain't no treason. So start caring for more than just your flank. And if you get help, there's always some pony to thank. Hooves moving and tails swishing, I started to dance as I trotted along.
Yeah, good call. Swing it.
She joined me in dancing, and Compound smirked at me.
Only cool to do this kind of stuff outside of a death trap city.
She smiled and joined me in scattershot and dancing, as we, carelessly to the blind eye, kept going. Eventually, we got halted by a rather suspiciously looking green lake, and the ticking pipbuck confirmed my suspicions. Radioactive stuff. The skyscrapers of Manehatten, along with some green glowing and still burning fire areas, were visible off in the distance. Only two choices. We could go clockwise or counterclockwise to this rather smelly body of water. So the building should be northeast, so we have to make sure we come in at the right angle. Over one of the bridges, if we may. I explained my plan of approaching the building that we were looking for, the headquarters of the Ministry of Image inside of Manehatten.
Then let's go clockwise, New.
Compound randomly pointed in one of the directions, and me and Scattershot nodded along in unison. It got foggy as we kept up, but I didn't know why. In fact, it didn't seem like normal fog at all. Something from the lake seemed to have made it. Whyever it may be, I brought up my shield, just in case. The white mist started to spread over the surface of the lake, and suddenly, equine bodies started to rise from the water, covered in mud.
Feral ghouls, we're live!
Scattershot yelled as she analyzed the predicament. That fog must have been something like a signal for the attack. That was a dozen or two of ghouls, all charging for the shore. This was going to end in pony blood, one way or another. Despite their state, these ghouls still had pony colors, and those amongst them who were unicorns had some truly disgusting abilities. I was slinging various elemental spells left and right. Come on, you zombie wannabe douchebags! I was smiling, finally a little magic practice, and relieving ponies of this curse of being a ghoul.
Badass!
Our trigger filly stuck her tongue out at me before dishing out rounds of lead. Bodies dropped.
What? Roach suckers!
Compound was being levitated against her will, wiggling her hose. One of these unicorns, he must have done such. 3 of these ghouls were glowing with green goop all over, and their eyes were translucent too. What a creepy bunch these were. A great colt spat out some murky green ball of muck, which imploded just as it reached us, engulfing me and the Phyllis in putrid green gas. But this wasn't just horrible to look at. My coat started to smell, and the single breath I took in surprise made my insides feel really numb. It smelled like some pony piled up buggers and lit them on fire, and then threw a radroach into the flames. I had to get Compound out of that telekinetic grasp before the acid cloud ate her, and I had an idea. Scattershot bolted out, and started to give me some cover. It was a spell a lot like levitating something, but more of a rough and strong shove from a telekinetic blast, than just moving someone gently. The mid-colored unicorn mare was rolling sideways after flying a couple of pony lengths, enough to get her out of the acid cloud. I bolted to safety quickly as I could.
Thanks.
Compound was coughing up some dust, but otherwise was fine. Just a little bit stenchy and smelly. Down to about 3 ghouls after some more spells, potions, and gunshots. I dropped the remaining trio with a very special spell, shooting colorful flames in a circular motion before frying them. At least they got a quick death.
What a way to end the day, huh?
Scattershot was looking around as it got darker. We'd either have to find some improvised shelter or travel through the night and possibly attracting things that we didn't want to attract. Leaving the radiated lake along with piles of pony corpses behind us, the city of Manehatten was close an hour tops away. But something felt off. I didn't hesitate to bring up my shield.
You alright?
Compound looked at me, wondering what was up. I feel like we're being watched, every pony. I finally explained my thought to the fillies.
I don't see nothing but better safe than sorry.
Approaching the western outskirts, flickering balefire became a more common sight. The empty windows looked ominous, and maybe inviting for scavengers. Dirt became dustier. Roads were covered in rubble and metal scrap, as it seemed. A ray of purple missiles was launched from around us, but I didn't get to see from where. My shield got cracked fast, but it survived the spell. No ordinary magic user, but from where?
Buck's sake!
Scattershot was looking around, worried. And I was imagining what would have happened if I wasn't around to protect those 2 girls right now. Not a great mental note to take.
You will die from penetrating the sacred goddess's grounds.
A loud voice. I turned around to see a very tall purple alicorn flying above us. Damn, these were the ones that were giving regular insane alicorns, of which I may have been the last, a horrible name.
So, they're real?
Compound was almost panicky. I realized that wherever one of these alicorns was, there were usually more, so I looked around closely before facing the alicorn. Don't think you can make us.
You will not. Weak. But the goddess has no use for you.
Once again, she fired her purple missiles right at my weakened shield. This wasn't going to be something I'd be able to sit out. As they struck, I cast another telekinetic blast, this time onto my shield, sending me and the girls flying just far enough from harm. I didn't hesitate to test her mettle, as she was busy taunting me, and launched a hurtful lightning bolt of my own. Just before it reached her, though, she got a shield up of her own. It looked bigger, but seemed a lot weaker than what I would use. My usual go-to spell vanished into a puff of smoke and sparks as it connected with her shield. With a few flaps of her wings, she flew down, landing in front of us, but getting closer. Time to show her what I really can do. With a swift sparkle from my horn, I released a very powerful barrage of fireballs at her, explosion after explosion blowing up right on her shield. After a few of them, the shield shattered and she lifted off, trying to dodge death through explosions. Try protecting yourself from this! I needed some wind-up. Good thing she gave me a breather. A bright, glowing, and shiny, but pulsating spell, which was good for flying enemies. A literal cloud of electricity, or shock bomb, as I called it, expanded in an orb-like fashion. She could barely react to it before her whole body got wrapped into it, falling down, twitching, and tensing up as electricity makes a pony do. My horn was still glowing, ready to scale the strength up. In one illuminating shimmer of my horn, I made my shock bomb stronger. Her eyes started to look steamy. I had to look away for this next part. Moments later, I heard a very vocal splatter of hers, parts of her body flying around, without wings I might add, and me wiping sweat off of my forehead and panting.
Celestia upon me?
Scattershot was trying to word, which was simple wasteland business to me.
She can't, but he sure can.
Compound grinned in straight up awe, and stuck her tongue out at Scattershot, and I had nothing but blushes to say to that. Just as I was about to lose myself in a world of blushing from Compound's remark, I heard teleporting just around us and brought up my shield again. This was becoming quite a magic training exercise.
How dare you kill our sister? You could replace her, though. The goddess acknowledges your power.
Another purple alicorn rose her voice, along with two blue ones she brought along. It was going to take some serious hoof grease to get out of this alive.
I'd rather lose my head than running around murdering my own kind.
Compound nodded in unison. Not in an eternity would I fall in with the likes of you.
Then die.
She launched a fireball at me, which I was able to sustain with my shield, but from the blast's strength and the surprise of her attack, I lost my balance and dropped my saddlebag on accident, but was fine otherwise, and kinda got my wings exposed. I brushed myself off, ready to make things get ugly here, but to my surprise, they didn't attack any further.
Alicorn? A male Alicorn?
She thought loudly, and her sister looked like she'd seen her life all over. I looked at my saddlebag and saw that pink gem we found a while ago, which completely drained magic power from anyone near it, along with other things that fell out of my bag.
The goddess needs you alive.
The more I listened, the more I could feel like some pony was pulling the strings here, like a changeling queen with mind control. And if that didn't work, Scattershot could turn them into cottage cheese with no magic at their disposal. I switched the magic ward on with my magic, which I felt suppressed in the second after. One of the blue alicorns shook their heads, the other looked at me in confusion.
What is this? I am free?
The purple one looked at me in disbelief. Indeed, 'tis magic draining.
Don't try anything, or you're getting your year's worth of lead in a second.
Scattershot trotted up to her, shotgun pointing at her.
No. We aren't trying to, but she's making us.
Who is she? I realized we were in a fully fledged interrogation at this point.
Goddess of mere pony.
She looked into my eyes, explaining everything.
But with you being a male Alicorn, she may be after you more than ever. Thou seem powerful, though. Perhaps someday you may free us. all kind.
I took a moment and nodded finally, knowing where their overlord was hiding at. I had news to spread throughout the whole wasteland.
So you Alicorns don't have a way of, having foals?
Compound summarized their problem, and if they ever caught me, things would get a whole lot worse for every pony. Scattershot smirked in a hard-to-misunderstand way before lowering her gun.
When we part, we must ensure she understands this was some error.
The Alicorns nodded at one another before the bigger one held a hoof out, and we hoof-bumped. Pony to pony, not as gods or overlords, but as ponies, looking out for another. This moment was symbolic in many ways. The control of fear of survival holding on to so many things in the wastelands, and hiding a layer of goodwill buried underneath. If you could somehow get the goddess killed, and her control over the Alicorns loosened, we'd go a long way in creating stability in the wasteland.
Teleport away from here as soon as you release that magic wand.
She looked at us, and I nodded with my fillies, hesitating but following her instruction. Be safe. I looked at them, going over to my sweet mares and flicked off the ward, and quickly teleported, me and the fillies, to a building in town, but where we had some vision, quite a few streets into the town. Just as I got us to safety, that place where we teleported from got swarmed with Alicorns. Not one or three, but dozens of Alicorns. This really must have been the commotion of a lifetime, and me knowing that I needed to stay that much safer really wore my mind down. Felt like tug-a-rope, and well, like I was the rope. Only hoping this rope didn't snap. I continued to watch the area with the Alicorns. Something was going on there. The Alicorns we talked to were in a circle. I couldn't really see the details, but that they were surrounded by their fellow Alicorns. I felt Scattershot leaning over me, sorta ducking down. Compound followed her, and we were piled up on the edge of a window peeking into the distance. A few moments, flashes and sparkles happened, and the three who had talked to us dropped as they were pierced with spells. All of this was because of me. My ears went down, and I sighed.
Hey, don't get yourself down now. It's not your fault.
Compound sat down with me as we scooted away from the window.
Yeah, I feel ya. Gotta be hell to be this important. But as long as you keep fighting the good fight, that's what matters. And ponies are getting along your message. We came a long way. And don't worry. We'll make sure no one steals you from us.
With those two around to giggle the ghosties out, my sadness turned to thoughtfulness, to a slight smile. But you two can steal me away all you want. I grinned at them, winking and sticking my tongue out at him. Since it was still dark, we decided to set up camp in this building. It was quiet, abandoned, and ghoul-free as far as a little peeking around could tell. I got my blanket out from my saddlebag. Nothing was missing, thanks to Lestia, especially my memory orb, which was a vision of a peaceful and calm afternoon from over 200 years ago. Just had to make sure to not light any fire here if you didn't want to attract unwanted attention. I heard some belly growling behind me, looking at Compound, whose ears folded back, so much and so cute that you'd almost have to be putting up warning signs.
Guess we haven't had anything edible in a hot moment. 10 Pony Tower should be around. Maybe we could stop there for some chow tomorrow.
Makes me think of cookies and cake. The fillies nodded, and my wild and spoken imagination probably didn't help it.
Alicorn riding my hoof, and real tame too.
Scattershot chuckled as we were cuddling up to another. I felt her hoof running across my mane and down my back, after I'd put my hat down. To nap on, of course.
Like a good book, he's got many pages.
I felt Compound's nose against my ear and closed my eyes. The girls were making me feel like no matter what happened today, it was all fine in some way. So close with one another, and being there for another.
Just like you do, Scattershot.
Compound licked her nose, and Scattershot almost blushed brightly, red as much as her mane, and smirked after. Losing another in sleep was easy in this company, as easy as taking a breath. A breath in the daily wastelands, survived and alive, with a clear goal in mind, ready to reclaim and restore this land.